give Dawn a round of applause. I'm going to pass it up to her.
So I don't usually use notes, but as I was waking this morning in that place just between sleep and wakefulness, I had an all-new idea of what I wanted to talk to you about be given to me, which is not my usual thing. I usually am sort of understanding. God uses me when I speak, so I never know what I'm going to say exactly, but I usually have some sort of loose idea. This morning, the loose idea was blown into smithereens, and so here I stand before you completely and utterly being used with this message this morning. So we will all, you said we will all be surprised. I don't know where you guys went to sit, but you guys said we will all be surprised, so will I. I would love for you, this is just sort of how I was imagining it this morning, to imagine with me. So if you want to close your eyes, if you want to, I'm going to take you on an experience. I want you to imagine along with me. So you have, you're someone who lives in like the 7th or 8th century BC. And you live in Corinth. And Corinth is a very wealthy city with a lot of different cultures. And you have an illness. You have been sick for a while now, and you have gone to ask for help. And to do that, you have fasted for quite a bit and waited for your number to come up, your ability to come and receive help. And after fasting for a number of weeks, you are finally called in, and you are bathed. You bathe before going inside the temple. You are purified by the water. You are baptized by the water before you go in. As you enter, you're handed a sleeping draught, a potion, something to take and eat. And this is before night, the original sleep clinic. You are going in, you're going to take that, and you lay down in a dark area of the temple. It's dark, you're laying down on a stone bench, and you go to sleep, but it's a fitful waking sleep. And all night long, you can hear other people tossing and turning on the benches in the other rooms, and there are snakes roaming the hallways and going over your feet and your hands. When you wake up in the morning, you've had a dream, and you go and you find the priest, and you tell them your dream. The priest interprets your dream for you and writes a prescription, and you go out and you follow that prescription for your wellness. That is the origin of Western medicine. That is the temple of Asclepius. It is the cult of Asclepius, and it was, you had gone to an Asclepion. There were about 230 of them in the ancient world. We got to the Asclepion because we started with a man. There was a man who was just a mortal. He was talented at healing. He was good at helping people. And he began to get a reputation even for being able to bring people back from the dead. And the more he practiced, he showed up in the writing of the Iliad, and people began to worship him. They began to lift him up on high because he could heal. And out of that, they began to build temples for him, and he went to God status. And the Asclepion was the very first place that people would gather all together for healing. Before, there were ancient healing arts all over the ancient world. There were known, I guess, what I call back to in my work today is this traditional healing knowledge that people used to pass down from grandmother to mother to child. And those were all throughout the ancient world in Egypt and all of the world centers of people. But because at this time that Asclepians became popular, all of these cultures were meshing, and Greek culture was pulling all of these traditions all together and incorporating them into the Greek tradition, the Western world tradition. Asclepians were then the first hospital, and out of those temples to get healing now in the Greek, Roman, Egyptian world, you went to the cult of Asclepius. You sacrificed an animal, just as the Israelites were doing in the temples to God. You sacrificed a dove or a goat or a sheep on the altar at the temple of Asclepion to pay for your healing. God has a few things to say in a little book called the Bible about putting other gods before us. And so Paul, we see Paul come into, and when he's writing to the Corinthians, Paul comes into this scene. He actually would have seen the Asclepion at Corinth. He would have been talking to the Corinthians about the Asclepion at Corinth. And it would have been a struggle in that day of, is God the healer of your body, or is Asclepius? And are you giving sacrifices to Asclepius and asking another god to heal you, or are you asking God to heal you? That would have been a contemporary struggle for Paul in the place where he was talking to new believers. He was establishing one of the very first churches. He was setting up this space that believers would get together and stand against what was going on in a pagan world. And Corinth was a very wealthy city. Lots of different cultures coming together, many different foods and ethnic backgrounds, and everybody having a different idea and everybody bringing a different belief to the table. So out of that, we have many years afterwards. I feel like this needs to be, I'm gonna fiddle with this a little bit. Can it go up? It's not gonna go up. I'll just do this. I apologize. I think my husband gave me a call just before we had a gift for speaking. Out of this, we see, many years beyond, we see Hippocrates and Galen were they were trained in Asclepians. And if you are trained in an Asclepian, that meant that you studied at the feet of the priests, and you eventually became a priest of Asclepius. Not exactly the picture that we have of Hippocrates when we talk about let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine thy food. We quote Hippocrates a lot. When I do a year-long program, and I wanted to keep things very pure and touched back to a better time in medical history, and I honored the Hippocrates. I have two of my students here. I'm very thrilled to have past students here. I had them look at the Hippocratic Oath in their studies because I wanted them to look back at a better time in Western medicine when it was more pure and it was using real food solutions, and we were much more in touch with understanding that the body was a more holistic organism, and Hippocrates and the cult of Asclepius believed that we needed to incorporate the mind and the emotions and the spiritual along with the physical. All really good stuff. And here I was connecting my students to this oath that doctors used to be taking, and it has been changed over the years. There's been some really interesting things that are beyond the scope of this conversation that have happened with the Hippocratic Oath. But the truth of the matter is that Hippocrates, while there are many things, many good things to take there, Hippocrates was a priest for another god, a replacement god to our God. So this is a problem. I went digging for this information several months ago when I was supposed to be writing another assignment. I picked at a thread, and I'm sure you've all done that, where you pick at a thread and 3 hours later you find that you're 60 websites in on something that you never dreamed you were spending. You've got books down from the shelf and the kids need lunch, but you're like really focused on this. So I did all of this research and I thought, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. I'm not ready to write about this on my website. I'm not ready to blog about this. I even was recently asked to speak, to give the message at my church, and this came in front of me and I thought, I'm not ready to talk to people about that yet. But this morning, when I woke up in that half light, God gave me that vision of laying in that temple with the snakes going through. The snakes are sacred to the god of Asclepius. Hence why we see the caduceus, which is where we go anytime we go for Western medicine. The caduceus is displayed, and it is not by accident. It is not a relic of a time gone by that people are, just sentimental about. Western medical doctors, though I will say on the whole, many who have been degreed don't know this history. They don't know what they're pledging to. They haven't looked into it, and many get into it with a beautiful heart to help people. But they are, when you take a Hippocratic Oath, you are praising and subjugating yourself to those who were before you in the cult, Hippocrates and the god of Asclepius, as part of that oath. When we take an oath to another god, it begins to pull us apart as God's created people to keep the oath that we owe him. And it's very difficult to walk on the right path. That staff of Asclepius is something that our current American Medical Association fights for people to understand. Some people inappropriately try to say that it has something to do with the field team, the field medics in a world war. And I apologize, I don't have the facts right in my head. But they try to ascribe it to something different, and our American Medical Association says, absolutely not. This is the staff of Asclepius. It is nothing else. It is the staff of Asclepius, and they will assert that over and over again. It is purposeful. They do know what they are attaching their history to and their allegiance to. I was looking up some research this morning, and I came across a research paper, a recent research paper that is looking at the fact that there's a belief that if they talk to current medical students more about their connection in this cult, their connection to where it started and the god of Asclepius and what was being done in those temples, that they would be able to practice better medicine. This is purposeful. It is an awareness inside Western medicine. So we are beginning, many of us, we are beginning to struggle with this place. I hear people all the time in what I do come to me. I went to the doctor, all they want to do is give me prescriptions. They're taking me into a direction that I feel like is making me sicker, and I can't get them to listen to me. They want me to just come in and follow their instructions, and I'm so frustrated. We have this struggle of frustration right now. And here's what I want to tell you. The frustration is not appropriate. The system of Western medicine is operating as designed. It is operating perfectly as designed. And if you struggle with how it's operating, it is you that doesn't fit, not them not operating appropriately. So I don't mean that as an incrimination of you. I want people to begin to be aware that you cannot go inside an evil system and expect it to operate for good. But it is a system that has pulled all the other healing modalities into. So how do we negotiate that? We have a friend who, during COVID, she was trying to stay out of the hospital. They were trying to take care of themselves at home. And she started talking nonsense, and her husband checked her oxygen level, and it was 31%. She needed to go to the hospital. She needed to go where somebody could care for her, and she went. And she should not be alive today. They put her on a ventilator, they put her in a coma, they gave her every drug that you've heard about. And she was in a coma for months and months, and then one day she woke up. So was it inappropriate for her to go into Western medicine and use that evil system that is based on worship of another God? That's real hard to struggle with right now. I don't think so. I think what it comes down to is, where is your faith? Who heals your body? We can use technologies sparingly. Unfortunately, again, because Western medicine has gobbled up so many of the traditions, we don't have a hospital that is operating outside of Western medicine, outside of Western insurance, outside of all of that. We've got Christian hospitals, but they're in the system. They're operating as designed. So we don't have a choice in our world right now when we really need critical care, when we need, let's stop us from dying. Does God want us to just die when somebody could help us? Can he use all things to good? Yes. But if you go into our friend Nadine, she woke up, she walked out of the hospital. And when her husband called me the night that he put her in, he called me a broken man, crying, because he had just dropped his wife off at a hospital and then been sent home. And he spent the next, 3 months? I'm gonna have her tell the story on the podcast, so you'll maybe tune in sometime and hear this told correctly. But he spent the next 2 or 3 months at home, calling every day, trying to advocate for his wife. And his faith was not in the doctors. His faith was not in them to heal her. He was trusting that God would help him reach them, and God would help them do the best for her, and that God would take care of the situation. Just as when he called me and I got off the phone, I went and I fell on my face in the backyard, and I spent so many nights like that, sobbing into the ground, because this was somebody I cared about, and I knew she had been taken into a death trap, and I needed her to come back out. We formed a prayer chain. We prayed for her to come back out of there. That's where our faith was. God performed a miracle and brought her out of that hospital, and he used the technology that was there. I do believe that that can be appropriate. My son fell down the stairs and broke his elbow when he was 6. We took him to the hospital. We didn't rub some yarrow on it and say, there, get better. We took him to the hospital to set the bone. So we have this struggle in our world right now where Western medicine is very much a part. All right, I'm already at 10 minutes, guys. God help me. This struggle is something that we have to find a peace with. Right now, our sacrifice to the temple of Asclepius, we are sacrificing our children. We are sacrificing the blood of our children. We are sacrificing our purpose in God's flesh because we are being kept asleep. Today we're kept asleep with food that is created by man and told, I call it imitation creation. We are told that this food is better than what God has for us. Eat the plastic, eat the wood, eat the things that we have hydrogenated oils. We've made it better for you. Eat this, and it is our sleeping draft. It puts us to sleep. And the more we do that, the more we eat imitation creation, the more we're separated from creation. And the more we worship the wrong God, the more we put our trust in. Here is my child. Do whatever you think is best. I will give them whatever shot, whatever pill, whatever you say, I will do because you are the God. You are the authority. And the inappropriate physicians are the ones that stomp and squall when you want to have more of a say because they want you to treat them like they're God. We are anesthetizing ourselves with the food, with the technology. We are offering as a sacrifice our children, our money. We sacrifice our walk with God often because of the choices that we make to maintain ourselves inside an insurance situation that allows us access to the cult of Asclepius. We have a choice. God gave us a choice when he told Moses, I'm going to send you into the promised land, and in the promised land, there will be other gods. And you can choose those other gods. I'm not going to stop you. You have free will. When you choose those other gods, the food, the medicine, the technology, when you choose those other gods, I will abandon you to them. What does that mean to you? I will abandon you to them. Your hope will be in those gods, and your hope will be hopeless because they cannot actually answer your prayers. They cannot actually solve your problems. We have a choice. What God do we serve? Our health matters. It is everything. Your health is how you are to act out God's purpose for you on this planet. If you can't wake up, like Lori said, and feel energized and ready to go and ready to be about God's work, you aren't fulfilling God's purpose. If you wake up and you're exhausted and you have to take 6 naps a day, this is not to talk to those of you who are striving to heal, okay? Because when we are striving to heal, we have grace that covers us. And all the mistakes that we've made with our health, God says, I'm going to cover you. I see you. I see you making strides back to me, strides back to eating my food, back to healing your body appropriately. I see you stepping away from depending on systems that are not me. I'm going to cover you with that grace. And the fact that you need 6 naps today is okay because you're getting better. That's okay. It is the choosing of, I'm going to continue to eat the food that isn't of God. I'm going to continue to just giving over my body and my children's body to the medical system, to the political system, to whatever system. These are all evil systems that are not of God. And they are the gods that people are choosing every day. And as God's people, we have to stop choosing them. You cannot unknowingly take the sleeping draft and enter the temple and wait for somebody to interpret your dream. You have to take charge of your health. You have to choose God. You have to choose God's way over your own. And we have to stop. We have to stop as Christians following the lie. God gave us all of the doctors. God gave us all of the wonderful, wonderful new technologies that they can do. Isn't it wonderful? No. God is not celebrating that we have taken aborted fetal cells so that we can take a medication and not have as bad of a headache. He is not celebrating that. He did not say, yea, verily, kill my children so that you can feel better. He said, eat of my creation. I've given you everything. Leviticus and Deuteronomy, revisited. It's not just a bunch of boring what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. God was really clear about how we're supposed to take care of our bodies. Then he was really clear about how to build the temple. Boring page after page of how to build the temple, right? But then Jesus came and died, and we had the new covenant where we are the temple. Do you think that after pages and pages and pages of where to put the lampstands, he went, oh, well, build the temple however you like? No. You're supposed to build the temple every day of what he gave us to build it with. We go God's way, and in Leviticus, we see what happens. We go God's way, there's health. We choose another way, God will abandon us. He will abandon us to that choice, and there is disease and imbalance and despair and hopelessness. I love this conference. I love this group. Kristen and Lori and everybody else involved up here, they have it right. They are bringing together practitioners who care, who can have the body knowledge. Western medicine in itself, the people that are in there are not all evil people. They are, many people, most people got into the medical profession because they had a heart to help people. And to vilify them all, to paint them with a brush, just further divides us. There are many nurses and doctors who are inside a system and they're looking around and they're waking up because they got in there. This has happened to me. I've done so many herb conferences around the world, and not around the world, I've said that this weekend several times. Around the country, and I was in this system, and I thought everybody else was there, had the same view as I did. Everybody was going out into creation and having an experience with Holy Spirit. And when they were talking about a tree giving them some sort of energy, it was the Holy Spirit. I mean, this is so obvious. It's what I saw. And then one day I thought, oh, no. They really believe that it's some sort of new god or plant diva. It's not the same experience as me. Oh, shoot. This is why I always felt so odd. This is what's happening to doctors and nurses who are believers, who got into a system that they believed was good. They believed the lie, and we as Christians are spreading this lie. It's good. God gave us this. No, God didn't. God gave us bodies that naturally heal when we interact with his creation. And then he gives us people that are talented when we go off the rails to help us get back on. Those are the priests. Those are the healers. Those are the appropriate healers. We need to be careful with the Western medical practitioners who are stuck in this space because they have knowledge that we need in the new space. We need new structures where we are eating of God's creation, we are healing with God's creation, and we are valuing all of the knowledge on the planet that we have been given about our bodies, because that is God is given. We've been on the planet for a while now, and God is breathing into us through the Holy Spirit this knowledge of how to care for our bodies. That is appropriate. But I'm going to ask you, because they're going to get a hook and pull me off the stage and wrap this up. I'm going to ask you to think about the foundations. Think about the traps that are in front of you every day. Before you coupon to the point that Walmart owes you money when you walk out the door, and you claim victory because you've bought a whole bunch of non-food and you didn't spend any money, and so yay, you're taking care of your family. Think about the trap that you're in. Think about the trap that is there when we try to make our bodies up of something that is not of God. Think about the trap that we are in when we turn our bodies over to a practitioner who believes that what's going on in you is chaos, not design. Interview your doctors. Understand where they're coming from. Understand what cult they're in. Are they in a cult of Asclepius, or are they a follower of God? Are they valuing what God can do in your body and what God is whispering to you? These are choices that we can make. Going to practitioners that value this is everything. Learning from people that can teach you how to eat appropriately and how to heal appropriately is everything. It is everything that you and your children are going to need as you go forward in the world that we are walking into. So thank you very much for coming today, and stop by the booth and ask me any questions. I'll be reanalyzing everything that God just said, because did I say that? What did I say? It's been a real privilege to be asked to come and speak today, and my heart is that all of you are reaching for real health, reach for real vitality and vibrancy, because as God's people, we were intended to wake up every day and feel amazing and feel empowered. And that is where you should be. And if you aren't there, run to it. Run to it, because God is waiting.
Thank you so much for that, Dawn. Can we just give her one more round of applause? Because I feel a little choked up right now. She just encompassed our mission and our heart, and that was really special. So before we send you off to breakouts, we have some fun stuff that if you weren't with us, yes,